Good afternoon, everyone. I'm extremely humbled and honored to be part of the celebrations marking Professor Jodhka's contribution to sociology as a discipline. There are two important firsts in my academic life that has a Professor Jodhka connection. The first time I presented my PhD work at the Center for Studies in Social Systems, where I had done my master's, was in 2010. The title of my presentation was Culture of Silence, Social History Through Bengali Women's Autobiographies. Professor Jodhka was not only present there, he had chai with me at the library canteen after the presentation and engaged into a long Gupshup, which I now realize is the word that he uses a lot. But he said something during that adda which I will remember forever. It was wonderful to hear about women's silence expressed so articulately by you. I was new to Delhi, coming back to work here after my master's in JNU, completed a decade ago. These caring and encouraging words from an established scholar to a young, hesitant, still early career academic in this city, which neither gives space nor showers words of motivation very easily to a stranger, meant volumes. The second was in 2012, when I was, for the first time, an external examiner of an MPhil thesis, but of Professor Jodhka's student. Again, it was a moment of recognition as well as one of confidence building as a scholar. And ironically, even before I myself had supervised any research scholar. The third was actually a moment where I was part of students moving from JRF to SRF, and identities, contemporary discourses on culture and politics in India, since it gave a really sound conceptual overview of the two terms, communities and identities, that I felt would help law students as they would further engage with legal realities. For the course Researching the Rural that I taught thrice for the MPhil in Development Practice program at Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi, two of his essays helped the students a lot. One was From Book View to Field View, Social Anthropological Constructions of the Indian Village, and the other that was just now mentioned, Nation and Village, Images of Rural India in Gandhi, Nehru and Ambedkar. While these are direct interactions with him, including an occasion where I have not been able to live up to his expectations, which I regret terribly, sir, a charismatic personality like Professor Jodhka encourages you through the broader sociological questions that he asks of reshaping the contours of doing sociology in India. His engagement with caste, village, elites, middle classes, while empirical, are deeply conceptual, giving directions to those of us working in other areas, in my case, law, culture, kinship, marginality, and care, which enables one to have methodological conversations with him. It is in this direction that I will briefly speak about three practices or reflections experienced while teaching sociology at a public university in Delhi for the last 14 years. The first, I imagined a gender walk in 2018 with MA Gender Studies students through a course on violence, feminist critique and resistance, another gender walk in 2023, another one in 25 with a BA course that I teach on gender and society. Each time, the activity of the walk had certain very specific objectives. Number one, to see, observe the city, the roads. Two, to walk and navigate through the streets of Delhi. Three, usually to do it in the evening with a part of the walk after sunset, or at least when natural sunlight lessens substantively. 4, to understand that the city belongs to people of all genders and thereby to make a claim to its public spaces. 5, to reflect what does a group of walking students, mostly women, do to other pedestrians, shopkeepers, men who congregate purposelessly in public streets. In some ways, trying to reflect on the disruption that is created as a result of group walking. Using the gender walk, usually the gender walks have been conducted around an area which is Mehroli, close to this place, which is one of the 7 cities that make up the modern-day southern part of New Delhi, which makes up 7 cities of Delhi. The walk revolves around the Mehroli Archaeological Park, and those of you who have been inside it, you know that it has inside it a dargah, a bauli, Sufi shrine, hospice, mahal, and overlooks the majestic Qutub Minar and has within its vicinity the Jogamaya Devi Mandir, the Bakhtiyar Kaki Dargah, and the Dadabari Jain Mandir, representing a unique cultural syncretism. While this is such an important historical site, yet there is darkness, post-sundown, drug menace near many of these sites, and a general sense of unknown and fear from everyday urban elite city cultures. Choosing this urban area as the site of gender walk enables engaging with the troubling notions of fear of the unknown, especially in public spaces, probability of being sexually harassed, and exploring the hope of collective resistance through the mere presence in a group. Doing a walk or walking as an experiential learning is intended as a feminist pedagogic practice where the learning is with and among the people on the road, which is one expected site of violence. Walking with groups of multiple genders in the same city that one inhabits disturbs a linear mode of commute, home to university and back. Unlearning, walking, attempting to know the unknown in the public space, negotiating gaze, fear, and the pleasures of walking together are all feminist methods of knowing. And maybe it's the first kind of indication to get to what it is to be in a field space, if that Mehroli archaeological site could be thought of as field. To walk is to know, and knowing is a step towards overcoming fear and developing a certain kind of consciousness. The second example, engaging with discomfort as a phenomenological experience in the classroom or outside the classroom during Adda. Public universities in India are a space which mostly, for the first time in the life of a student, enables her to encounter peers cutting across class, caste, regional, religious, linguistic boundaries. The constitutional reality of we the people is reflected in public universities, opening up possibilities of dialogue, friendships, love, and losses. Over the years, I have felt that it is important for us as teachers to reflect on the antinomies between the university life and the familial life of a student, which is nearly like the fissures between constitutional guarantees for a citizen and the lived reality of one's everyday lives. How do students engage with questions of choice of partner for marriage, or coming out as queer to parents, experiences of sexual transgressions, or everyday humiliation around status while in a classroom interaction, as opposed to in a familial or social setting? As a teacher teaching sociology for so many years, I wonder whether the affect of anger, despair, or hesitation interrupts these homes as well as university spaces for the student. Do interpretations of marriage and motherhood that feminist sociologists do affect friendships made in high school long before a student reaches the liberatory space of the public university? The discipline of sociology, which asks us to bring together biography and history, seeks to engage closely with the familiar, with subjective rigor, and pushes us to interact with our own multiple selves, how then does it deal with discomfort? Third and the last reflection is engaging with fields. What does it mean to engage with fields of PhD scholars? I've till now, had about 7 students who have done PhDs, so this is, keeping that in mind, some amount of reflection. Higher education institutions or campuses are emerging as important field sites for students. I see more and more PhD students wanting to do work about higher education institutions. Students are wanting to study their own contexts, understand love, friendship, intimacy, humiliation as experienced by college and university students while they are college and university students. Crisis, complexity, and meanings of cohabitation or shared household has emerged in the kind of thesis that I have supervised, where sites like mediation centers, heterosexual interfaith domesticities, practices of non-marriage conjugality, brothel habitation, student housing, single women households have all emerged as sites of domestic arrangement, its complexity. How do we study it? Sources are varied. Ethnographic fiction, census, marriage cards, photographs, mediation agreements, divorce decrees, written life narratives, immersive fieldwork, police records, curriculum analysis, conversation as a method. I was just thinking that Gupshup is something to be embraced in literally a methodological way, because that is something which students are really talking about. And of course, the world space of the digital in terms of apps and how do you map, study, do analysis of apps. But there's also troubles of and in the field, as all of us know, related to questions of identity, place of stay, fear of talking, encountering vulnerabilities, transformative expectations with the people with whom you do the study, relationship with field collaborators, or relationships also with the people with whom you study while in the field. When does it end? And I think this is not a question right now, but does fieldwork really end? Has been an important question, and I'm trying to say that today it comes back in a very different way with questions of identity and positionality of the researcher in a much more complex manner. Self of the researcher also emerges as field. Pressures of marriage is consistent with many of the students with whom I have been doing PhD. Field researcher post-marriage, need to distance oneself from the natal family to pursue one's PhD. Financial needs, mental health anxieties are all part of, how is it that the self becomes again the site of field literally. But agreeing with the importance of fieldwork in sociology, the site, sources, themes of fields in sociology are undergoing rapid transformation. Equally important is to be mindful, I feel, of the troubles of fields. And the fieldwork is always interrupted due to reasons, due to locations, due to a variety of reasons. Professor Jodhka yesterday in his conversation with Professor Moitrey Chaudhuri suggested that he sees a transition in sociology. Where lies its hope? I want to think of walking, discomfort, and engagements with the troubles in fields as moments of simultaneously disrupting as well as longing, thereby reaffirming a renewed faith in the discipline of sociology, which Professor Jodhka has so passionately scripted over all these years. Thank you very much.